From the firescapes of the Bronx to the heights of success, this is From the Firescape Podcast. Real stories, real hustle, real people making it happen. No handouts, no shortcuts, just the blueprint to rise. Let's go. Hey, welcome to From the Firescape. I'm your host, Taina and Carrero, and a little bit about me. From riding my bike all day long on the old block to an award-winning realtor with 14 years of experience. I've helped hundreds of families and investors reach their real estate goals, mentored new agents, and sold millions of dollars in real estate. I'm also an international investor and a serial entrepreneur with several businesses. You can call me the ultimate problem solver, I guess. Well, you might have seen me on a TV show called The Caribbean Life on season 19 when I bought my first international home in the Dominican Republic. Yep, that was me riding horses and checking out properties in Sosúa and Cabarete. And joining me today on her birthday is my amazing co-host, my mom.
Well, thank you for that. Hola, I'm Iris La Blanca, also known as Iris Virginia Fernandez. I'm a retired nurse, now a published author and consultant. My writing draws from my upbringing in the South Bronx, a 35-year nursing career, and a master's degree from Columbia University. As a co-author with Latinas 100 and Hispanic Stars Rising, I advocate for women's empowerment and representation. I'm a passionate advocate. I also support organizations fighting domestic violence and promoting animal welfare. And this is where we talk about our individual and collective journey, from the South Bronx to places we never imagined we'd reach.
Yes. And today we are taking it back to that one firescape on 2246 Grand Concourse and 182nd Street. And if you know, you know. And if you don't, well, let's set the scene. The Grand Concourse has a deep history. Back in the 80s, our neighborhood was struggling. Racism, poverty, disinvestment. It was a time period coming off of the Bronx's burning of the 70s. Outsiders avoided the Bronx, calling it dangerous and deserted, kind of like today. This decade was marked by significant socioeconomic and cultural changes that would forever alter the landscape of the South Bronx. From the ashes of urban decay and neglect, a vibrant and resilient community emerged. We're part of that, giving birth to some of the most iconic and enduring cultural movements of the 20th century. But this place, Grand Concourse, did you know that it was once known as the Champs-Élysées?
That's right. Yeah, I think so.
Well, that was a famous road in Paris. And the Grand Concourse was built with the Parisian influence, but also marked by a dark past. Part of the Bronx was a part of the Bronx slave market.
Can you imagine that's right? In the early to mid-20th century,
Wow.
The Grand Concourse was home to a labor market where African-American men and women waited on the street corners, hoping to get picked up for a day's work by wealthier white citizens, kind of like Home Depot these days.
Mm-hmm.
This was happening from the 1930s to the 1950s, right before I was born.
Wow. I knew pieces of history and quite a lot of the Bronx, but not all that. I really had no idea that there was a Bronx slave market.
Yep.
I mean, wow. And that's why history matters. I'm 46 years old and never knew this. We cannot rely on schools to give us history.
Nope.
Nowadays, we are blessed to have the internet and we can do our own research. But today, we're diving specifically into the 1980s. The firescape at 2246 Grand Concourse. What it meant to us and why it became the name of this podcast. And stay tuned, because at the end, we're going to be sharing some really cool book recommendations. Why? Because books and mindset matters, especially in these kinds of neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we learn to dream beyond our neighborhood.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I always made sure to put books in your hands.
Sure did.
Do you remember your Highlights magazine subscriptions?
Oh my God, yes, I sure do. I would get so excited when those order forms came out to pick new books. Some of my school friends didn't understand my excitement over the book fairs and these subscriptions. They were just more interested in shopping for clothes or teen magazines, but not me. That's too funny. Anyway, let me set the scene back then. We're back at the Grand Concourse, 182nd Street. Big apartment buildings, bodegas on the corners, a mix of all kinds of shops on the block, and always the sounds of the city. The 4 train clanking in the distance, the D train rumbling beneath us. Cop cars are always here. You can always hear them. And in the middle of it all, that one fire escape and the second floor. But it wasn't just a fire escape.
No, it wasn't. It was our balcony, our front row seat to the world, a place to dream. We sat on those steps for hours, talking about life, about getting out, about making it. The adults on the stoop, you and the other kids riding bikes or playing street games until the sun set. Those streets, that fire escape, it heard our thoughts, laughs, and our dreams.
And not just thinking, visualizing. I remember staring out at the Empire State Building in the far distance past the Grand Concourse. It reminded me that there was more out there. Some days my friends couldn't come outside, but you know me, I had to be outside.
Just like now.
Exactly. I have to be outside. But I'd sit on the front steps of the building, looking out and dreaming about that big city I could see. I visualized myself walking the streets of that city. Then I started visualizing driving nice cars into the city, which they all eventually did happen. I walked those streets and I drove in some really fancy cars.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, we didn't have much, but we had that escape, literally and mentally.
Yeah, dreaming is where manifesting begins.
Indeed.
We used to sit there and ask, what's next? Because we knew there had to be more than just this block.
And that's exactly what this podcast is all about. Everyone needs a fire escape, a space to dream, to visualize, to plan the next move. Because if you don't, it's too easy to get swallowed up in a hungry neighborhood.
Yes, it is. Growing up in the Bronx, you didn't get handed opportunities. You got handed tests. If you wanted something, you had to go find it or create it. There weren't safe spaces for kids.
Nope.
No real community centers. No nearby libraries. All we had was the block and each other.
Facts. We hung out in front of the building, and as kids, we rode our bikes up and down that block. And when playing, if a ball rolled into the Grand Concourse driving lanes, oh man, everything stopped. It was like it was frozen in time. Parents watching from their windows, kids frozen in mid-play, just praying it didn't roll too far into the Grand Concourse. It was like an instant life lesson in danger and timing and consequences. But you know, the funny thing is, I think you guys and the parents,
Oh, yes.
you were more worried than us kids. You know, we saw that danger as fun, almost as a challenge, something to avoid, but not to be scared of. Because I wasn't scared. It was kind of fun. But, you know, it wasn't just about the struggle. It was about resilience. We learned to hustle, not just for money, not just for survival, but for growth, for escape.
Exactly. And the hardest part, a lot of kids never got to see what success looks like.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, many never made it out. Some by choice, some by circumstance. In fact, some are still there.
Isn't that sad?
You remember that woman, the one that was a dentist, or had been a dentist?
Yeah.
She got caught up in drugs. Every time she tried to get clean, she had nowhere else to go but back to that same neighborhood. Until one day, addiction took her life.
Oh, man, I unfortunately, I do remember. And it still makes me sad today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was only about 7 or 8, and all I saw was this woman with holes in her arms crying in the streets. You know, Abuela, you know, she would shake her head and say, "It's another junkie going crazy," she would say in Spanish. And it was all too familiar, unfortunately. You know, there were a lot of people with addictions at that time, and I saw them everywhere. But for her, that one woman really definitely left an impact, because I do remember.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were desensitized.
Yep.
But that's where books came in. Reading shifted my mindset, and I know it shifted yours as well.
Oh, yes, it did.
And when it was winter months and I couldn't be outside or on the fire escape, books were the escape.
Always.
Learning, yeah. Learning about fiction stories that took me into other places, and the books on my Puerto Rican roots, or even seeing Latino successes like Rita Moreno or Iris Chacon.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. My namesake.
And that's right. Before J-Lo, it was Iris Chacon. Look her up.
Yep.
Well, you know, that gave me something to hold on to, a different kind of education.
Yep. Books changed the game for all of us. Do you remember the Scholastic book fairs?
Oh, yes. Oh, man, I live for those. And, you know, you and I were the nerds of our family.
Are the nerds.
Yeah. It was always about books. I remember that one bookstore. Do you remember? On the Grand
Oh,
Concourse?
yes, absolutely.
Yep. It was on the way to Fordham Road. That was the original Barnes & Nobles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you took me there often, and those things I can never ever forget.
All right. So let's talk about some good books.
Yeah.
Let's first start up with a little plug for my Perseverance, The Bridge to a Latina Mother's Dream. It's my very first memoir.
Yes.
Today is actually 1 year since its release.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for the impact. I shared my story, the mistakes and the setbacks, because people need to see that failing doesn't mean finished.
Indeed, Ma. You were definitely inspiration. You were always my hero growing up, and still today.
Aw.
Yes, this is true. Facts. Well, congratulations again, Mom. Not
Thank
only on
you.
your very successful book release and this celebrating the year anniversary, but on your birthday as well. And I hear
Yes.
that you won another award this week for that book.
I certainly did. I got 3 awards already for that book.
You see that? And that's only your first one.
Yeah.
Well, my friends loved your book and learned more about you as a person.
And I love your friends.
You know, you're the people's mom. But they saw a different perspective of you, and you let your guard down on your personal experiences and showed with mental strength you can overcome your choices and
Yes.
outcomes.
Yes.
And that's why it's so powerful. I mean, you dropped out of a prestigious high school
Mhm.
because you were pregnant.
Yep.
You know, this was before MTV made it a thing to be teen and pregnant. Back then, people wrote you off. And here you are, proof that you can rewrite your own story.
That's right.
So, folks listening, hear me out. If you have not read this book, we're going to link it below in our notes. Everyone can learn something from this book. It's a short read, and it's definitely something that you want to read and pass down to your kids. Now, my pick is actually a book that wasn't available back then, but resonates so much today. The Fifth Agreement by Don Jose Ruiz and Don Miguel Ruiz.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody talks about the best-selling The Four Agreements, which is a classic. But for me, the fifth one, which is to be skeptical but learn to listen, now that's the real gem.
Makes sense.
The key learning lesson from this is to be skeptical of the information you receive, but always strive to actively listen and understand the deeper meaning behind the words to really discern the truth. Essentially, question everything while remaining open to hearing a different perspective, because not everything you hear is true.
Oh boy, is that true. I've always been skeptical of words. Watch the actions instead.
Yep, you've
That's
always told
street
me that.
action. Yep, that's...
It is street education.
Yep. Next, we have a favorite of mine. Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain.
Mm-hmm.
Gawain explains that there are 4 stages in the process of creative visualization. The stages begin with 1, setting a goal, followed by 2, forming a mental image of that desired outcome, and then 3, continually returning to that mental image, and then finally 4, adding positivity to that image. I'm telling you, it changed my life. I was so introverted when I started high school. I was a very meek, geeky teenager coming from a small Catholic school in the South Bronx where I didn't really have many friends. As I navigated the halls of the Bronx High School of Science, which was like a big college campus, I began to take time to dream and visualize what it would be like to have friends from all walks of life. I saw myself as confident and interacting in extracurricular activities as well as my classes. And almost like from night to day, it became real. That's the power of the mind.
Indeed, that's the power of the mind. And that can be in anywhere, any circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
When you really close in and harness the power of your mind, anything can change. Oh, what a great
Absolutely.
book. Nice. That's powerful. And, you know, I was doing that with my Empire State Building dreams without really having read the book. Because I was visualizing and I was seeing
Yes.
myself in those streets.
Yes.
Ah, great stuff. Well, I want to add another book. I'm actually reading it right now for the second time. And it's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Don't worry, we'll have the list of the book recommendations we're speaking of. It's going to be attached to the notes of this episode. But just like your book, Mom, Creative Visualization, the key lesson from the power of your subconscious mind is that by actively managing your thoughts and beliefs through that visualization, positive affirmations, focused intention, you can significantly influence your reality and achieve all your goals.
Yes.
As your subconscious mind works tirelessly to manifest your deeply held convictions. And
Yep.
I repeat that, your deeply held convictions. Your thoughts create reality.
Yep.
This is a powerful one, folks. Seriously. If you really want to achieve something great, all the books recommended today is going to fast forward your progress.
That's for sure.
If you've never heard another episode of ours and you just take our recommendations, I guarantee, and I say that, not much is guaranteed in life, but I guarantee your life is going to change. I mean, I never imagined buying a home out of the country and being on a TV show. No way. That was not in my bingo card ever. But once you're on the road to reaching those goals, the universe rewards you with fantastic opportunities.
Yes.
But you have to be open to them.
Yep.
Another part of positive mindset is no fear. If something scares you, then you should probably try it. Now, granted, you got to have the common sense to know, we're not talking about jumping off bridges or anything. I have had friends that wanted to be investors just like me, or entrepreneurs, but their fears kept them from reaching their goals. I mean, they wouldn't even partner with me on some of the ideas that I want. And unfortunately, it left them in their 9-to-5 jobs, miserable, complaining. And that is not what this podcast is about. We take chances here, okay? And we sometimes fail, but we will share them. And if we fail, those were lessons learned. They're not actual failures.
Exactly.
There's always a lesson to be learned. So, fam, that's from the Fire Escape. Our short stories, little inspiration, some Bronx history, and making sure the next generation has the tools to rise and make any of their dreams come true.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All right, so I hope that gives you some food for thought about your aspirations and your dreams. Now we want to hear from you.
Yes.
What was your fire escape? What gave you space to dream? Hit us up on the socials and subscribe to our website to stay in the loop. We want to build a safe community here to inspire. So let's keep the combo going.
Yes, let's keep that conversation going. And if you know a young person or any person who needs inspiration, put them onto this podcast and these books. The right mindset followed by action. And action is a huge key component. Because you could have a great mindset, but if you don't act on any of those thoughts,
absolutely,
nothing's going to happen. So the right mindset followed by action changes everything.
Everything. So until next time, let's keep dreaming.
And keep growing.
And
never stop learning. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.